Hey there, YouTube. Well-rounded prepper here. It's been a busy few days, so it's been at least a few days since I've posted a video. Just wanted to take some time to talk about rationing. Something that our grandparents, maybe actually now great-grandparents, can tell us about. It was something that they had to do back in the Great Depression and with World War II and the Dust Bowl and just everything going on then. They had to ration their food. Actually, our government rationed it for everybody. There were certain days that you were allowed to go to market. You were given books with certain amounts of things that you were allowed to buy each week or month. So things were limited. Resources were really limited. And whether it's going into the holidays or after the holidays, it's definitely something that I can see. It's already been a thing since COVID, with stores limiting the amounts of things that you're allowed to buy, 2 per customer, 3 per customer, so on and so forth. But I want to talk about more at home. And I also want to talk about becoming more aware of food waste. I think that there are things that kind of are going to go hand in hand. I encourage paying closer attention to the amount of food that you're eating each day. I think that, I know for myself, me and my husband both, our diets have drastically changed over the last 15 years of our marriage. When we were first married and we were young, we ate large amounts of food. I don't even know how I got all of that down in one sitting, kind of large amounts of food. Over time, our diets have changed, our bodies have changed. We are accustomed now to eating less. We actually have been intermittent fasting. And that's just something, again, if you are interested in, look into it, but definitely include your doctor. Just gonna say, especially if you have like blood sugar problems or something like that, just be careful. But it wasn't just for health reasons that we started intermittent fasting. For me, I wanted to become accustomed to eating less because of the things that I feel are coming. There'd be nothing worse, or well, no, that's not true. It would be pretty rough if you go into some kind of a situation where your way of life is forcibly changed, and that includes food and access to food, for you to go from eating 3 to 6 meals a day that you're accustomed to, and then down to not being able to eat very much. It'd just be easier if you're already there. Now, again, little disclaimer, I'm not in any way, shape, or form trying to offer medical advice, but I do know that some people need the 6 quote-unquote meals a day, small meals, and that's fine. If that's what you're comfortable with, great. I would just encourage you to see if you are overeating. Pay attention to what you're doing. If you need to, keep a food diary. It's very helpful because sometimes it identifies things that you're not even aware that you're doing. And just see if you're taking in an inordinate amount of calories for what you should be taking in. I would encourage you to look at that just so you can get used to eating a little bit less. It's going to help conserve, and it's going to help ration the food stores that you do have. Things will last longer because you won't go through them so much. So that's just something to think about. And then as far as rationing, again, ration things that you have, or at least consider rationing things that you have. Consider rationing for your pets. Again, please don't starve your pets. Don't starve your children, please. This is really all just kind of to make you more aware of the amount of food that you and your family and your pets are eating. My pets, I free feed, or I have been free feeding most of our lives. So they just randomly eat whenever they want. And then there are people that they feed them, just twice a day and a certain amount. That is the route that I should be going, and that's something I'm fully aware of, especially to make their food last a little bit longer. It's not that they're piggies, but I can make the food last longer. So it's something that I'm actually looking at, kind of changing their diet too. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, paying attention to food waste. This is something that I've become painstakingly aware of. I guess mostly within the last few months, maybe 6 months to a year. I've really been becoming aware of it. And that's good. We shouldn't be wasting food. I think particularly Americans, we are really, really bad at wasting food. I mean, I can't even imagine how much we could feed the world, even people here that are starving and people overseas that are starving with our food waste. I'm pretty sure we could probably just about eradicate world hunger if we didn't, if our food wasn't wasted, if it wasn't just thrown in the dump. And I'm not just talking about on the personal level. I'm also talking about on the corporate level, at the production level. There are so many just shipping containers full of food that go to the dump because a farmer sends his produce off and it doesn't arrive in time, and whoever he's sending it to purchase it, they end up buying someone else's first. So that shipping container of food literally gets dumped. It's the most maddening thing because there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that someone else's got bought, they lose their money, so it just gets dumped. And I don't know personally, I don't know if it's the farmer's fault for dumping it or if it's wherever it ends up their fault. I haven't actually really looked into it too much, but I've seen it happen and it's really upsetting. And then at the retail level, I know that there's produce that makes it to places like Kroger or Meijer or Walmart, and if the produce doesn't look pretty, it's not aesthetically pleasing, that produce gets pitched. I get it. We've kind of done that to ourselves. Retailers learned, especially back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, when they were really becoming a thing, that the people that they were selling to wanted things that looked good. That they reached for the bright orange as opposed to the pale orange, or they reached for the bell pepper that has 3 or 4 humps as opposed to one that has an extra one. So we've done it to ourselves, but again, it's produce that's perfectly fine. It's completely edible, and it ends up in the trash. And then on the personal level, how many times our eyes are bigger than our stomach, we get too much food, and then we end up throwing some away? Or you go to a restaurant and the restaurants serve like breads or some sort of little appetizer thing, and you don't finish it and you leave it there and they throw it away. So what I've taken to doing is, particularly when we do go out to eat, which is not very often anymore, we've really stemmed that tide. But I mean, the biscuits for Cracker Barrel, who does not like a buttermilk biscuit, right? Or the Texas Roadhouse rolls, who doesn't like that? If you don't like that, well, anyway, something's wrong. But those kinds of things freeze perfectly fine. I will admit right now, I have become that person in the was it the Allstate commercial? Not Allstate. Yeah, one of those commercials where they're becoming like their parents. I'm that person with the time capsule freezer. I actually have to say, I think I do a pretty decent job about feeding us out of it. It's not that things are just sitting in there really like freeze drying, but I do freeze a lot. I keep things. If we're not going to eat something within a day or two, I immediately put it in the freezer. I freeze our meats. I freeze our butter. I freeze leftover bread. I freeze leftover French fries because with an air fryer, which we have one, yay, they heat up and refry perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. So again, it's just something like I've become really, really painfully aware of, and I'm trying to get out of the habit. I can only imagine, where people have gone from having plenty to having none. They can look back and think, I remember that plate of food I threw away, or I remember that basket of fries I didn't eat and I just left at the restaurant. What I wouldn't give to have that now. So that's just something I would encourage you to do, is to really just kind of look at your family's food waste, see where you can curb that, and consider getting used to eating a little bit less or eating more of a normal calorie amount. And again, with, don't make yourself sick and don't starve people or pets, please. But just think about those things and see how you can kind of change those habits. And I would encourage you to do it now as opposed to later, even going into the holidays, especially going into the holidays. If people actually have money to get together and eat good food, I encourage you to look at how you can extend that food. How can you keep it a little bit longer? How can you not waste as much? So just some friendly advice, friendly encouragement. I hope that you are all doing well. I want to encourage you real quick to consider going over to the Prepared Homestead channel. He's one prepper that I follow, and he has some really good video updates, particularly on current events and things to look at coming in the future. The US dollar is dying. It's worse than you think is one of the most recent videos I would really encourage you to consider watching. So be informed. Knowledge is power. I hope that you all have a wonderful day, and God bless.